Know what your teacher forgot to tell you about the bad old Puritans? About pilgrims and log cabins? And pilgrims and religious freedom? And what about good old Plymouth Rock? Oh, well, you don't know.
In 1620, a haughty band of pilgrims left behind the tyranny and oppression of a distant place in search of liberty in a new world. They landed on Plymouth Rock and then built a log cabin community based on the principle that all men should be free to practice their religion any way they choose.
Okay. I know that's how we all heard it, but none of it's true. The Pilgrims didn't land on Plymouth Rock. They didn't land in Plymouth at first to begin with anyway. They didn't live in log cabins. They didn't go around wearing those funny black outfits and kooky hats. We've been had. To get to the bottom of this Pilgrim scam, we decided to start with Plymouth Rock.
Oh, what is this? What is this, John? It's the first rock.
Well, you know, I wish I could actually touch it so I could say I touched the rock.
If you're patriotic, you appreciate it.
The first thing you notice about Plymouth Rock is that it's surrounded by a huge Greek-like temple. Look at this thing. It's made out of quincy granite or something. Anyway, under any other circumstances, this would seem ridiculous. A rock surrounded by its own temple. But of course, this is Plymouth Rock. It's to the Americans what the Eiffel Tower is to the French, what the Leaning Tower of Pisa is to the Italians. It's our sacred national shrine. It's America. Indeed, the rock is so important to us that pilgrims visit the place night and day, every night and day, 365 days a year. Even presidents visit. When they put up the temple in the 1920s, President Warren Harding came up from Washington to join in the celebration.
When I was a kid, there was no portico. The rock was just here.
The portico has been here since 1920. This was constructed.
Well, maybe it was open then, but I remember walking on the rock.
Indeed, you might very well have, because there was more shoreline here, and there wasn't the railing here.
Yeah.
Look it, we have a bird on the rock.
And here's what all the fuss is about. Yes, this is it, Plymouth Rock.
We came all the way from Hollywood, Florida to see this rock, and it's not big enough.
But I can see why the Pilgrims landed here, because there's all this money around here. I'd stop here too. They had to stop somewhere. You know, they're running out of water here. There's not too much further to go. You know, you always hear stories. You think it's some kind of cliff, some kind of mountain, kind of like something really enormous. But you get here and, yep, it's just a rock.
There it is.
And that's just the beginning of the disappointment. It turns out we built this huge monument, this huge temple, to a rock that may be no more significant than any other old rock. I know the Park Service people here give you a different story.
A man in the bows spied a rock that jutted out into the sea.
But according to historian George Willison, who wrote this book, Saints and Strangers, back in 1945, and who spent his whole life studying the Pilgrims and Plymouth Rock, the whole story is just malarkey. A folk story turned into a money-making tourist attraction. What Willison found out is that the Plymouth Rock legend rests almost entirely on the dubious testimony of a 95-year-old man who told the story more than a century after the Mayflower landed. The man was Elder Thomas Faunce, the year 1741, and it happened while Faunce was down on the beach with some friends.
My father told me the story about the old-timers' arrival in the New World, and he told me they landed on this rock right here.
Well, you never told us this before.
You know, well, let's go.
Like most historians, James Baker agrees with Willison that it's all a myth.
Do you buy the story?
No, I think Elder Faunce is, well, what is Elder Faunce, when he's 95 years old, is carried down, he says that's where the forefathers landed, pointing at the rock. It might be a place, therefore, that was near there, that was a marker for his own mind, but they didn't specifically say, perhaps, they actually stepped on the rock. But that was a marker roughly where he said they landed. And of course, this is 121 years after the event.
Unfortunately, not too many people ever heard how we came by the story of Plymouth Rock. Willison's book came out at the end of World War II, and Americans had more in their minds than Pilgrims. Besides, it was a book, and people by and large don't read books. And so we've all gone merrily along repeating the same old story as if it's true when it's not.